Welcome to the Poisoning Podcast. I'm your host, Erin DeLullo. Today, we're diving deep into one of Texas's most contentious public health debates, Kratom, and the policies shaping how these substances are regulated. Joining me is Stephen Simpson, a reporter at the Texas Tribune who's been breaking stories from the Capitol in the rise of Kratom poisonings and the tug of war over hemp-derived THC. Stephen's on the front lines of these legislative battles, and he's here to help us untangle the headlines. Stephen, welcome to the Poisoning Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I have actually seen your work on what is formerly known as Twitter several times. It's exciting that the Texas Tribune has a mental health and addiction reporter. But when I saw what was going on in Texas, which is a lot is going on in drug policy right now. But when I saw your piece about the Kratom poisoning, and this is the Poisoning Podcast, I said, I have to reach out to him, Stephen, and get, I've been thinking about it anyway, but now is the moment. So thank you for coming on, and tell us a little bit about Kratom. And have you heard of it before you started this
So,
story?
so I had not actually heard of
Yeah.
Kratom before until I started this. I kind of stumbled upon it by mistake. There's currently something else going on in Texas, which is
Yeah.
a THC debate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of lawmakers were pointing up like different products showing the dangers of THC. And I don't know if it by mistake or they just don't really know any better, but they would often hold up what was Kratom as an example of THC. And so I had someone eventually reach out to me on Twitter. These people aren't holding THC products. And so that's sort of how I kind of stumbled into this.
Oh, that's fascinating. Was it like a product that they're selling in the store or the actual plant?
It was the products that they were selling in the store. So it was like the cans that you can find in the gas stations or some of the little pill capsules you can get at like smoke shop.
Got it. Yeah, well, all types of interesting substances being sold in gas stations these days. So, okay, let's talk about what kratom is, because this is just fascinating to me.
So pretty much what it is a Southeast Asian tree plant. It's similar to the coffee plant. What it has been used for many centuries in Southeast Asia is a pain relief medication, and sometimes it was used as a hallucinogenic. It wasn't until around the 2000s did this plant kind of find new life here in the West or America specifically, where it was being used to kind of treat some of the opioid epidemic. What this plant does is that binds to the same receptors in the brain as opioids. So when you take this substance, it kind of removes some of that opioid withdrawal and some of that addiction feeling. What we've kind of discovered over the years, though, is that in high dosages of this stuff, it can also cause a lot of addiction in and of itself. And so that's sort of where kratom has kind of been lying in the past, I guess, decade or so. More recently, there's been a strand that's kind of come out of kratom called 7-OH, which is a synthetic made out of a derivative of that plant. And that's sort of where the fight has kind of come, and that's where a lot of the controversies kind of exploded around kratom.
Yes, so 7OH has a very official long name that I am not going to attempt to pronounce, and I'm not going to attempt to ask you to pronounce it, Stephen. But what I think our listeners will find interesting, since it's synthetic, so you would think of, when you think of heroin, pure heroin being derived from a poppy plant, a seed, that's natural. But then fentanyl is created. One is synthetic, one is natural. So the kratom has a leaf that I guess people could eat the leaf. Do you know how people take it naturally?
So naturally, a lot of people ground it up and drink it like a tea, pretty much. And so sometimes you would just drink it throughout the day to kind of get consistent pain relief, or sometimes you can ground it up and put it into a pill form and just take it orally. And then there's the most popular versions, which we see now, is sort of almost like energy drink cans that you see at gas stations and things like that.
Yeah. And so the OH7, is it made in like labs by big companies? Do we really know where it's coming from?
So there is pretty much two different processes and the sort of how this is created. When kratom kind of comes over, it can kind of goes into the factories and where it's kind of bottled up and then shipped out into various places. Sort of that like description you had about the poppy plant is sort of the best way description of it. Is I've had people in the kratom industry describe it like that. There's the poppy plant, and then there's the morphine produced from the poppy.
Yes.
That morphine is then can be turned into heroin. And sort of that is what's happening with 7-OH and kratom. Kratom is being shipped over here, then distributed out to the various companies out just like as normal kratom. And it's up to those companies sort of what they want to do with it from there. And so some companies have decided to make it go with 7-OH, which is a lot stronger, but it's also a lot more addictive. And
Wow.
then there's the kratom, which is a little bit more unpredictable, which is, I guess, sort of what the people on the other side are saying are the bonuses of 7-OH. You know what exactly it's going to do to you. The regular leaf kratom is kind of based on your body. Your body
Oh.
will adjust to sort of what's going on with it, and that's sort of the differences between the two of them.
Fascinating. It seems like there is this tension between maybe the natural kratom people, ingestors, takers. I don't know how to describe the people, and then who just want to take the leaf and grind it up and have tea or swallow it in a pill form, versus the people who are selling sh- little bottles of shots at a convenient store or gas station. Would you agree with that? That there's a
Yeah.
lot of tension there?
Yes, there's a pretty much a war in the industry going on right now between the two sides. They're both, and it all comes down to this rise in poison control calls that has been
Mhm.
spiking across the nation. A lot of people are getting complaints of respiratory problems, severe addiction, and sometimes death has been connected to this stuff. And so the people in the kratom industry are coming out clamoring, this isn't us, it's the 7-OH. And then the people
Mm.
out there in the 7-OH industry are saying, hey, you guys can't just blame this on us. We don't know if it's you guys as well. And so it's just a battle about who's to blame for sort of this rise in the poison control.
Yeah, the one quote from, Tiffany, was it Stedding or Tiffany? "I've
Yes,
seen people who have taken 7-OH products become crippling addicts in under a week."
yes, yes. And
Does
there's
that seem believable to you? I mean, do you believe that?
I've seen I've seen Reddit threads of people out there talking about 7-OH products and talking about how they didn't know what they were taking and became crippling addicted. And I think that is one of the big problems right now is that people don't know they're taking these products. And so that is causing a lot of the issues. If you know that you're going to come and take kratom, you know that there's going to be some addiction involved. You're probably taking this because you've dealt with other addictive battles. If you just going into a convenience store, the person at the gas station probably doesn't know the difference between kratom or 7-OH either. They're just like, you want this? Here you go. And then you just think you're taking an energy shot. You feel good. You're like, wow, I really love this. I may want to get another one of these. Before you know it, you're quickly addicted because what you thought was just giving you an energy boost was actually an opioid.
I mean, nothing to mess around with. And the here, I'm gonna be very honest, I've never been into a vape store, Stephen. No, I just haven't, no need for it in my lifestyle, but there are now signs where it's like CBD, kratom, like they're advertising it. So, my goal is to go in and, check out some products because I've heard that they'll sell you a shot, but then in very small print on the back, it's like you should not consume more than a quarter of it. Well, then why are you selling it in like a shot form when people think you should be taking the full thing when you think of a shot, right?
Yeah, and
Maybe?
that's I've heard those stories many times of people just being like, "Yeah, it's in these little tiny glass bottles almost," and you don't think of it as anything dangerous. You're like, "This would be a fun little thing to do on the afternoon,"
Yeah.
and then you don't realize you're taking like 9 servings of like a normal dosage of kratom, which is way too much for the average human being to be doing.
Right. So, wow. It's interesting. Did you encounter anyone in your research for this piece who had taken kratom because they were battling with an opioid addiction?
Yes, yes, and so I met a couple of different people who kind of testimonied that kratom really is sort of the only way they are able to stay off opioids. It's the only thing that gives them that same kind of feeling, but is not going to kill their organs pretty much is the exchange they're making. They know that what they're doing is addictive. They know that there's at points where they need to take breaks. I had the person who runs the Kratom company, 1876.
Mhm.
He was a musician and he used Kratom to kind of get through some of his substance uses and withdrawals and abuses. And even he said he's been taking it for several years and he's going to start taking a break here just to get wean himself off a little bit. So if you have that understanding of what Kratom is, it can be very helpful. If you don't know, that's where it can kind of be dangerous.
Now, was he, like, under a doctor's orders, or was this a self-choice
Yeah.
medication?
Most of Kratom usage is self-medication. There's not a lot of medical studies yet into sort of the benefits of it. It's been kind of the target of the FDA for a
Yeah.
few years. The FDA tried to ban it, I think several years ago, and there was a large outcry against that. And so the FDA kind of backed off and then re-examined it the past couple of years again. And that's sort of where they are now discussing maybe making 7-OH a classified substance instead.
Yes, with 7-OH can be 13 times stronger than morphine.
Yes. Yes, and it's
So and, you know, okay, I understand that maybe if you're an addict and you're doing some research and you may want to work with, like, a holistic or natural approach, I could see that, not saying that would be my choice, but to go into one of these vape stores or a gas station is not usually where I would go to purchase, like, critical medicine for a very challenging issue I was dealing with.
it I would say this is more of an indictment on sort of substance
Mhm.
abuse services around the country that so many people go to smoke shops and gas stations to try to find anything else. A lot of the methadone
Mhm.
clinics that we have options for, they're not in rural areas of the states. They're not available to the average person. There's a lot of stigma associated with standing in line for the methadone clinic. Walking into a smoke shop now has become the average human being's experience. It's
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, they just popped up in here. So I'm based in West Virginia, Stephen, if you didn't know. And we've had raids all over the state because they're selling to minors. They're selling things like we are not allowed to have 7-OH. And it's just so hard for the state to regulate these
yeah,
shops.
yeah, yes, and that's sort of what the issue Texas is dealing with right now is sort of they can't regulate Kratom. Is pretty much what is on. They've had multiple different organizations come out and say, "You have a law that says 7-OH should not be sold here in Texas." It's being sold everywhere in these Texas, and it's just not being enforced. A lot of the law enforcement say that they can't enforce THC regulations now, much less anything else besides like something niche, I guess, in this kind of topic as
Mhm.
Kratom. And it's really hard to tell the difference between the 2 substances because both of them are kind of labeled right now as Kratom. There's not really being
Really?
a distinction between the 2 of them, and so that's another problem kind of being added to the situation.
So it's not labeled properly.
Yes. Yes, there's a
Is
lot of
there
there that are mislabeled.
Ugh, and I'm sure is there warning labels in Texas on these things?
Every product should have a warning label attached to it. The issue is sometimes the warning label might not have any confirmation behind it. There's not like a I guess there's not like a council above like alcohol where there's someone you see the back of the label is the alcohol industry and you're like, okay, I know someone's been regulating this stuff. A lot of this has been self-regulated by the industry. And so there's some organizations that are pretty reputable, but there's not like one out there that's the gold standard for them all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I don't think anyone opens a bottle of wine and thinks that one glass is going to make them ill, sick as an adult, as a 21-year-old plus adult, or cause them an immediate addiction problem. It might, maybe a little bit with alcohol, but it's not going to make you have all these issues that are being reported with the poisonings.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot just contributing to the poisoning is there's this natural trust you have when you buy something from a store. You assume that it's going to be safe for you, but that is definitely not the case a lot of the times with specifically supplements. A lot of
Yeah.
supplements are just out there, and they may not even be fully FDA regulated.
Well, even I sat through a panel in June on counterfeit medications, which I was, really geared towards like fentanyl and fake Adderall pills, Percocets, the things you hear about. But then we talked about the GLP-1s and how there's a ton of counterfeit GLP-1s for sale on the internet. There are places that have been raided where they're just making it in their bathroom. No one's died, oh, like really buy. Is your vapes, I think a big question to ask is your vape shop or gas station store the place to buy self-medicated things? And I would say probably not. No, I would not do that.
Yeah. And like
The risk is there.
yeah, and I would say there is some like smoke shops out there that have like a reputation of being very knowledgeable about their products, and they will
Sure.
be able to walk you through like specifically, I would say legal states where marijuana is there, it's more medically viewed. I would say in states like Texas, there are some good smoke shops out there, but there's also a lot of just like places that are open that have been just run by college kids pretty much during their off time. They're not super knowledgeable about what they're getting. They're like, you want to get high? I've heard people say this is good. And that's sort of almost how a lot of the things are done almost when it comes to some of these stuff. So I think for mainly for Kratom's best interests, it needs to be education attached to it, and I don't think education can be found at a gas station most of the time.
No, I agree. It cannot. So, what do you see? Do you see any type of tie with like the THC issues in Texas? Because you've had poisonings there as well being reported.
Yeah. I would say the main thing that sort of my reporting kind of uncovered, not just the kratom, but just over the THC issues, is that Texas is a very synthetic state. We have known to take to synthetics very quickly when it becomes available. When spice and K2 was a thing,
Yeah.
Texas was getting ravaged by it. When Delta 8
Mhm.
came to Texas, it immediately became one of the biggest products in the state. Now we're like one of the biggest tea producers, like I guess in the country and almost the world now, due to all that
Wow.
kind of interest. And now we have 7OH, and a lot of that stuff has gained popularity there. And so I was talking to drug experts. I'm just like, what do you think is going on with synthetic products here in Texas? They're just like, our state is so heavily regulated on the drug market that people will find anything to kind of get high, and they're just not thinking about a lot of the risks that are attached to it.
So, do you have to be 21 to buy kratom in Texas?
You should be. Is that going on? I don't know. There's a lot of just easily accessible. Like I said, it's in the energy drink section, so I don't even know if the people at the gas
So, you're
station.
thinking you're like just didn't get a good night's sleep and you need to, and you, oh, it's so wrong. Sorry. That's just not good
Yeah,
for anyone.
like if you would think if it was gonna be 21 plus, they would put it in like the alcohol
Where
section.
the alcohol section, it needs to be, well, I've even seen, I drink a like vitamin drink in a can that has like some like magnesium and things that relax you. And I thought I was picking it out at a different grocery store. I was just somewhere else. And they're like, "We need to see your license." And I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "Oh, they pointed, it had a little marijuana leaf on it." I had no idea that they had the same thing, but it wasn't like very well labeled that there was a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, and,
And they were right beside each other, 2 sides. I'm like, "Mm."
and
So
I've
how
had people. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go, please.
I was saying, I've had people in the kratom industry recommend is like maybe this is a product that we should put at like pharmacies or like Walgreens or things like that. Maybe that's something that needs to be examined more, or maybe like in GNC, like more of a supplement focused place where the people are more knowledgeable about sort of what you're buying and what you're about to get into.
Yeah, because it seems almost maybe that it's being sold a little bit as a health, like a health food almost,
Yes.
or a health su it is like a health supplement.
Yeah, it's a health supplement. It's pretty much classified as a health supplement. So,
Really?
and that's sort of what a lot of THC products are also classified under as a health
Hmm,
supplement. It's one of the
okay.
easier ones to kind of get into the market in.
And is that Texas or the FDA?
I believe that's the FDA, and that's kind of allows that to happen. Like I said, the FDA has now re-examined kratom, and they don't view kratom, the plant, a danger as they did several years ago. They're just viewing this synthetic now as the danger.
It'll be very interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah.
I know I have seen, sort of in the state space, the lobbying around this issue really it's intensified. I haven't seen it necessarily in Texas, but in other states.
Yes. Yes, and like that's sort of the battle between the two industries right now. One is trying to fight for survival at this point. So they're going to try to do everything they can. And they do have customers that they have. And I've seen the testimonials from them that were like, this is my lifeline to survival. If without it, I'm going to end up back on opioids. So there's going to be issues on both sides. I would just say that right now there's not a clear understanding of what's going on and there's too many people getting hurt according to the poison control numbers.
Yeah, that's it's when people are getting hurt like this, there's also a cost to society, right?
Yeah.
So how has the THC poisoning been going in the state? Is it the same groups having the problem?
No. So with Kratom, it's specifically college age males and working age males. So from like 22 to about 40 years old. The research and studies have suggested this is probably because they're the most likely to go into a place looking for an energy boost or something else to kind of get them through the workday. And there's also, of course, a lot of older men deal with some opioid addiction. And so they might fall into that. THC problem with the poisoning numbers is affecting mostly minors.
Mm,
Teenagers and even toddlers are the most affected by the poisoning control numbers there. And a lot of that is concerned with edibles and the vape pens that have gone around.
yeah. I just tweeted a story either today or yesterday. A preschool worker in Georgia in Cobb County had some kratom, but it was OH7, and the toddler got into it.
Ooh,
The toddler had to be revived with naloxone, which I have behind me. So it was even amazing to learn that the poisoning from or I think I just called it OH7, 7-OH can be, Narcan can reverse it.
yes. Like
But
it's pretty much just an opioid. Is
yeah.
opioid in the can is how I've had it described to me.
And so, like, we would never put oxycodone or morphine out at a gas station for purchase.
Yes. Yes.
So
And
I
that's
can see how there is concern by regulators.
yes. Yes. There's clearly a reasonable need for concern. It's just where should this concern lead is kind of like where the debate is.
You're right. Well, we should have easier and more affordable access to recovery for those who are dealing with opioid addiction so that they don't have to turn to drug gas station.
Yeah. Self-medication is the true issue here. This is everyone's looking to find a way to self-medicate.
Right. So where are we in Texas right now with regulating this?
There has been several suggestions that have been made. There was a bill that was attempted to um originally regulate 7OH, and then the bill changed midway to ban all kratom products. That, of course, caused another initial backlash to it, and then it died on the House floor because we had already passed the Kratom Texas Protection Act, which made 7OH illegal. So now we're back to the status quo. I guess what a lot of people are hoping for is that the FDA's ruling on either way, making a classified substance or not, will invigorate Texas to get involved with this right now. But I'd say the most pressing thing when it comes to Texas and regulations is THC. That is the one thing they've really focused in on.
Right. And tell us that status there.
So this is the third attempt to get this bill passed forward. It's a bill coming out of the Texas Senate, which will pretty much ban the majority of THC products, except for CBD, like lotions and things like that. The main contributor of this is our lieutenant governor and the Senate, and it's past that initial hurdle. It will go back to the House. What has happened is that the governor initially rejected the ban after it passed the House the first time, saying he preferred regulations over an outright ban. Since then, several House members have come out and said we want regulations, not a ban as well. So it looks like it might have a little showdown between the Senate and the House on sort of what's going to go down with THC.
Well, so you have a ban on 7-OH. We just can't manage it for some reason in the state.
Yes, and that's sort of what the people are arguing for a ban on THC are saying. It's like we can't regulate this many convenience stores. I think they said there's over 8,000 convenience and smoke shops around the state, and they're arguing that's impossible for us to regulate. So that's just going to make THC legal in the state. And the people that are arguing against a ban are saying that one, this has become a product available to a lot of people for many years now, and they've made businesses, enterprises off of it. A lot of people use this stuff to self-medicate for mental illness or pain or things like that. And so it's sort of a tension between the two sides of if we can regulate this, then what's going to change between now and the kids are going to still keep getting hurt is what they're arguing.
No, my newsletter this week, I interviewed a doctor that spoke to a bipartisan group of state attorney generals last month, Dr. Travis Harker. And, he had a teenager who smoked marijuana once and went into psychosis and like ruined a whole year of his high school. And he was an athlete. So we need to protect children. We really do. They don't know what they're taking and if adults don't know what 7-OH is going to do to them, what do we think is going to happen to the young people?
Yeah, and that's what I had a drug expert kind of explain to me is like the problem that a lot of us are facing is that the kids aren't educated enough on what they're taking. And for some people, THC, just one smoke, you kind of said the story. If you were already predisposed to bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or things like that, THC is not something you should be taking. And that's not a story a lot of teenagers know. They just see their kids, the other fellow classmates smoking this vape pen, and he just wants to take a hit and doesn't even know maybe he's even predisposed. And then his life is completely changed. And so that's sort of the problems you deal with when it comes to self-medicating.
Yes. And there's an SNL actor. What was his name? I'll think of it. But I think he dated one of the Kardashians at some point. But yes, Pete Davidson. Thank you. Just I could see his face. So you know who the Kardashians are, Stephen. He's talking about how just his marijuana habit led him into psychosis because the THC is so strong in it. And I do think there's education, but sometimes you might not even know if you're a young person, had a bipolar or would had that sort of deep inside of you, a bipolar issue. And then you take this and that's how you find out, right? And that's not fun. And that's not a great way. And, I think our society has sold to us partly through movies and the culture that marijuana has always been harmless, right? And maybe it has been in the past, decades ago, but it is not. That mindset is not what it is today.
And that's sort of what I've had people in the THC industry kind of tell me is that it's a product not for everybody. And that's sort of what it's been pitched as is like this product that's just meant for everyone to enjoy is the easy, safest thing to take. And from a legal drug standpoint, it probably is the safest drug you could probably take. It's not going to most likely kill you, but there is other negative consequences that can be attached to it. And I don't think that's made aware enough. And then kind of point out most kids don't know maybe if they are predisposed to some of these mental health disorders. Me as a mental health reporter is sort of why I advocate so much for having some of these mental health resources in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of this education standpoint needs to be taken a point in. Like you could say in the classroom, talking about mental health and saying, well, you might see a lot of people self-medicating for this kind of stuff for maybe bipolar disorder you see on TikTok. That's one of the bigger problems is TikTok telling people how to treat their disorders without having any kind of clinical diagnosis. So that's why a lot of this education aspect needs to be done at an early age. And I think schools are probably some of the best ones to be set up for it.
It's like, don't get your health advice from social media shorts.
Yes. Yes. And
That's like a good rule to live by.
there's so many TikToks I've seen of where and that's probably the main problem is just there's so many TikToks of people just selling product that you don't know is coming from and their background motives behind it. And so there's a lot of TikTok mental health specialists that say, take this will make you feel better. I took it and it made me feel better, but you don't know if that person actually took that product.
Right. It's a these people are trying to make money. That's what it's the end of the day. It's money. It's not necessarily, they're not running a recovery clinic, a mental health clinic. They're just trying to get you to buy something, kids.
This is
I try to teach my children this, even when it comes to like shoes. They're like, Mom, I saw this. I want the latest. I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah, social media is the one aspect of mental health that we have not been able to fully control.
Oh, man, that is for sure. So tell me, Stephen, you're following some heavy topics, mental health, addiction. What has like been the most eye-opening thing to you in covering this space?
It's probably a combo of two things. The lack of resources that are
Yeah,
in these spaces is very alarming, and probably not getting any better is sort of the concerns that I've seen a lot of people have. But the second thing is that I'm impressed with sort of the creativity a lot of people have made doing a lot of this stuff. We have an organization here in Austin that pretty much sets up on a corner of a street and passes out Narcan and condoms and stuff like that for free to people that are the homeless that are in the city. I've seen people do mental health programs in churches and in libraries and things like that. So the creativity of people in this space to make things get done provides hope in that industry.
that's very encouraging to hear. They have to just take it and do it themselves
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
others.
They see a challenge and they figure out a problem and figure out a way to solve it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm going to ask you a question I probably haven't asked a guest in a while. Do you carry naloxone or keep it on you anywhere, Stephen?
I do have a naloxone. I actually have one in my bedroom and one in my office. But funny enough, it wasn't because I kind of picked them up during my reporting. So it's kind of things I
Right.
collected throughout my time. So I have some Narcan stuff. I have some drug testing kits on all kinds of various items.
Great. You never know when you can help someone. Give them a
Yeah.
second chance.
Yes. And I would say Narcan efforts here in Texas have exponentially increased. It's become more available with each passing year.
Yes, and it's more accepted, and I think it's led to the decrease in overdose deaths. Um, so I just hope we keep continuing with making it available. Now that I've read that it works on a 7-OH overdose, that's amazing.
Yes, and I will just add that one of the people at the crime lab who kind of was reading a lot of my stories was kind of telling me is like, I know there's a lot of buzzy drug terms out there, Kratom, THC and stuff, but he's like, we are still drowning in fentanyl. And I want people to know that fentanyl is still out there and it's still dangerous.
It is. Well, I'm glad he told you that. It is. And that's mostly the focus of my podcast, but this topic of Kratom was so interesting to me. Well, any last parting words, Stephen, that you want to share with our guests?
I would say support local journalism. And if you want to check out some of the news that is going on at Texas, come check out the Texas Tribune. It's a free publication. We're a nonprofit, and I cover the mental health side of things. I cover mental health, substance abuse, and much more. So feel free to come and check us out anytime.
That's great. I have been to a Tribune Fest. It's been a few years, a little while, pre-COVID, but it's a great publication. Well, thank you for joining The Poisoning.
But thank you guys for having me again.
Yeah.